Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more hit or miss than Ed Hickok's Strike Zone. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hi, everybody.
And this week, we have with us another fantastic guest, contributor at Birds on the Black, and co-host of her own podcast, Gateway to Baseball Heaven, Tara Nichols.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to have you with us. And today we are going to be talking about the recent Cardinal surge, the first place Cardinals, and the recent addition to the Cardinal rotation. Thank you to Cardinal 70 from the Bird Scored for that opening joke. If you have an idea for an opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Tara, we're super excited to have you with us today. I love your work and I love your podcast, but unfortunately, we're about to waste several minutes of your time and your life. So I just want to say thank you first before I redirect into just some real nonsense that Ben and I have to address before we get to it. Frankly, it's embarrassing that you're with us when we're about to talk about what we're about to talk about.
Well, for what it's worth, I love a little bit of nonsense. What is life without some nonsense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're just catching the show for the first time, Ben and I spent the weekend together at sort of a friend trip, and none of us can remember when this actually happened, when the bet was put down. But Ben bet me that he could smash a watermelon in between his thighs.
Yep.
Just lay on the ground and smash a watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think he would be capable of doing this. And so we set a date. We set a time when he would attempt this. And, I have to say, I'm here. Let me be the first to say,
please,
that I am sorry.
Yes.
He did it with ease.
With ease. That should be clear.
However, this was not without controversy. Okay. So we bought been shaking his head.
I'm fired up right now, but continue, please.
We bought the watermelons on Friday in order
at your
to
grocery store that you recommended. I'd like to be clear.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. So you bought them. We bought them on Friday, and the the smashing was to happen on Saturday. We got two because the idea was Ben will do one or fail to do one, and then there'll be another one for us to actually eat because no one wants to eat a thigh covered watermelon, or someone else might want to try it. And so we get down, we're going down to the Lake of the Ozarks. Friday, while a bunch of us are in the kitchen, watermelons are on the counter. Out of nowhere, we start hearing a fizzing, sort of like releasing of air sound before suddenly one of the watermelons just sitting on the counter essentially explodes. Now, that's probably too big of a word for it because it's not like it went like...
It popped. It maybe popped, yes.
It popped. A part of it
I was outside.
Up. Right. Likely story. So, one of the watermelons self-imploded. So, we all believe that Ben pulled off some sort of watermelon alchemy here where he injected it with something, I don't know, something to loosen up its inner wall that I know watermelon
rind. It's called a rind.
Anyway, yeah, we know you know that because who knows how much research you had to do in order to pull this off. But his calculations were off and it imploded the day before it was supposed to.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe he did that. He corrected his mistake and introduced whatever foreign element he had, or we've been calling it Inflategate because it might have inflated the watermelon a little bit. Anyway, you did it, Ben. You did it with ease. You cut right through it. Everyone was impressed, but I don't know. I think we need a do-over because this is suspect.
Honestly,
best.
I was talking about this with Mary when we were coming home the other day. Give me another one. I'm fine. Any watermelon, anytime. That is how confident I feel after. I mean, like you said, I cut through it like a knife through butter. I felt very confident. And maybe these St. Louis watermelons are suspect. Maybe it's St. Louis's own fault or your fault specifically. But bring it is really all I have to say to that.
All right. Well, to be continued. We've wasted enough of Tara's time. So, but I know people needed to hear how that wrapped up. And Ben, your witchcraft, we're on to it. Okay. So anyway,
here thank you for the compliment, Nate.
Anyway, here we are. It is August 9th, and the Cardinals are in first place. It's been a challenging, to say the least, couple months for the Cardinals and being a Cardinal fan, but we're here into the back quarter or back third of the season in first place by a couple games. It's all in the past. We're ready for the end. We're ready for an exciting last couple months. But how did we get here? How did we go? What felt so quickly from the season is done. Sell everybody to now suddenly we're a couple games ahead. So Tara, I'd be interested to hear just from your perspective, what's happened recently? Where's this surge coming from?
Well, it's certainly interesting to see how different the tone is around the team and the players and even the front office, much less of us who, make a hobby of talking about the things that we can only observe from the outside, right? But it's interesting this season in particular, I've actually not been as available to invest in every moment of every game like I have in years past. And the perspective from a little bit further removed is very interesting because you don't ride the waves quite as outrageously.
Yeah, it's probably good for your mental health, right?
I would not say that it's been bad for my mental health to let up a little bit on the chaos. But no, I only say that to say that in years past, I've watched myself kind of swing that pendulum from everything's great, they're going to win the World Series to everyone is awful, get rid of all of them, and then back again in a matter of weeks, right? And I think this time around, it's been interesting to see them this season at times feel a lot like they did last year, and at times feel like, wait a second. I mean, there's a lot that could be good. And then for most of the season, feel like, how are we still not dealing with these glaring issues in the pitching staff and just hoping that someone from Memphis is going to fill it in and be fine? So the last week has felt in some ways like the 17-game win streak last year did, where you're like, this is cool. I don't know if I believe it. Because I don't know which version of this is the one that can be sustained most significantly. Now, I do think that coming off of the trade deadline, I talked about this with Shopta just a couple of days ago, not the most awe-inspiring trade deadline in terms of things that maybe upgraded the Cardinals more than marginally. But it did sort of stabilize some of the things that were causing a bit of a crater and coincided with the Brewers just deciding they didn't like being in first place anymore. So I don't know, I guess, is the short answer to a long-winded monologue here, because I don't know which version of this team to believe in entirely, but I do think that contrary to the 17-game win streak last year, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado have been good all year. That's not really coming out of nowhere.
Right.
Stabilizing some of the pitching may help. And maybe that leads you to the place where you can see this team settle into a little bit more of what it should be based on potential. But I mean, sweeping the Yankees gives you all sorts of false hope, for sure.
Yeah, doing a weekly show, it's really hard not to ride every single up and down as if it's the end of the world or the greatest week of our lives. And we've been pretty down for the last several weeks, and now they're on a 7-game winning streak. It's hard not to immediately switch to jubilation. But yeah, there's definitely a degree of the Brewers trading their star closer, and then the bullpen collapsing, which we talked about, potentially happening last week. But yeah, I think your point too about, a 7-game win streak is very different than a 17-game win streak, of course. But also Arenado and Goldschmidt, both MVP candidates this year. And you could just see all year, all we needed was some sort of supporting staff for this team to be successful. And it's rarely been there. So now with some stabilization in the rotation, say that 5 times fast. Yeah, it feels like while this isn't sustainable in, from a win streak standpoint, like maybe this is the Cardinals that we thought we were going to have, or maybe the Cardinals that it looked like we had like early in the season. Ben, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think I think that's all very interesting. I think the one thing to like, especially when comparing, because we're in a similar time when the 17-game win streak happened last year, and the teams may be surging, and that's maybe even a calling card of the Cardinals teams over the past 5 years is that their second half teams with Schilt and now with Ali Marmol, and I guess maybe a little bit with Matheny. But I think the thing that sticks out to me the most different about this team as compared to teams in the past is the offense is legitimately good this year. Definitely driven by the 2 MVP candidates that you both just referenced, but the surrounding team is also really good. Not to mention, in this little surge or in this little time that we're all feeling really, really good about being Cardinals fans, Lars has come to life. Corey Dickerson is a baseball player that has
We have
value.
always loved Corey Dickerson on this show.
Yeah.
Just like
Always
every
been by
other
his
Cardinal
side.
fan, we've
Yeah.
always been by his side.
Never doubted for a second.
Never doubted him. Tommy Edman is still playing great defense, but his bat has kind of disappeared over the past, month or so? But
Yeah.
Donovan has come back on. Like, kind of the whole team is clicking. The only thing that I would really worry about with these additions and the way they're playing right now, this might be the best version of this Cardinals team. With the offense rolling, we have the stability. Helsley is still a relief god right now. He is one tick below Edwin Diaz this season, which is the highest compliment. So that's kind of my perspective, is everything is actually kind of clicking. There you could nitpick, absolutely. But it's all kind of flowing the right way. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably the only way you really beat the Yankees this year, is if everything is kind of working together. But that's kind of what I'm seeing right now.
And if you don't play in a ballpark with a short porch, that helps.
Yeah, wasn't it like Carpenter? There was like 2 of. By the way, shout out Matt Carpenter. So happy to see his lovely mustache. But I think I saw
also,
it was like
sad to see his broken foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a bummer. What a he's coming into the ballpark looking like Luigi. Everyone's loving him, and then the next day or a day after he breaks his foot. It's a huge.
At least
bummer.
that didn't happen in St. Louis, right?
Yeah,
that would have been a buzzkill.
It's
For
not our
sure.
fault at the very
Right.
least. Yeah.
But yeah, he would have. I think what you're going to say, Ben, but I'll be the one to say it, is
Thank
that 2 of his fly balls in St. Louis would have been home runs in Yankee Stadium. So that's a pretty big difference.
I found myself watching those games, and especially the St. Louis home announcers building up the Matt Carpenter return every at bat. And Matt Carpenter steps to the plate with a chance to. Every time I was like, yeah, but he's not playing at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
That fly ball's not going out here. We know
Right,
this.
yeah.
We've seen it over and over again. So it was slightly less scary than maybe it would have been if the park factor wasn't a thing.
Yeah, we're like, we know what Matt Carpenter's looked like for he's definitely better this year. He's different. Right. He's made some adjustments, but he's not. Yankee Stadium is his best friend right now.
Yes,
well, you go look at Anthony Rizzo's stat line, and it's the exact same thing. He's hitting like 233 with a low BABIP, but he walks enough and hits the ball over that short porch enough to be a really good baseball player in that one stadium.
Yeah. I did see a crazy.
And when it's your home stadium, man, you can ride that wave.
Yeah, I saw a stat the other day that was it was like minimum 150 plate appearances, so pretty low. But what's the highest OPS in Yankees history? And the only person higher than Matt Carpenter was Babe Ruth. So
wow,
Yankee legend Matt Carpenter. It might be the best for him that he's probably going to miss the rest of the season. He just comes in, sets a ton of Yankee records,
Yep.
looking fly, and then he's done.
But this means that Cardinals fans are going to be clutching their pearls all off season long. Are the Cardinals going to extend a 1-year deal to Matt Carpenter to start as DH? And we're all going to say, no, we love you. Just stop.
He's got to retire. Who's going to fill the Albert Pujols hole after he's gone?
Anyone?
I don't know.
Corey Dickerson. I'll take some more Corey Dickerson.
So there's obviously a lot of things coming together. We haven't talked about, I think, two parts of it too. First of all, Yachty's been back. Like the day he got back is the start of the win streak. So instead of kicking basketballs down in Puerto Rico, he's here with the team. And then I think he's doing what he normally does. But the bigger storyline has been Paul DeJong's return. I mean, hard to have asked for a more dramatic return from anyone than what we saw out of Paul, especially in the Yankees series. Tara, I mean, have you noticed anything different in this week if you're able to watch his at bats compared to what we saw before he left?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think it was hard. Well, I'm speaking for myself. I don't speak for everyone, but it was hard to, not be impressed by some success from Paul DeJong, because I don't mean this to sound like a terrible critique, but I don't know that I was expecting it. I don't know that I really had high expectations of his contributions immediately in a way that made us all go, wait a second.
Right.
Could this work? Could this actually work? Because it's been such a long time since we saw that from him in a way that made us believe it was more than, okay, he had one good at bat, one good day, right? But yes, I do think he looked different. I think first of all, the body language is completely different. And I've said this before about Paul DeJong. We all know he's a really smart guy. I think he might be too smart for baseball.
Yeah.
It's almost like when he's struggling, you can see the gears grinding to a point where it's like, it's like that GIF where all the numbers are floating around. Like I feel like that's what's happening in Paul DeJong's head when he's trying to, fix a mistake or figure out a swing or get his timing right. It's almost like he's capable of handling so much information in his normal life that he tries to do that with baseball and it gets in the way. So I don't know I'm sure there's way more to it in terms of what he kind of reconstructed or took away and added when he had time to focus on it at Memphis, but he just looks like he's not overthinking it right now, and almost like he's doing what gave him success in the first place when he first came up to St. Louis and opened everyone's eyes to the possibilities of Paul DeJong. So
yeah,
I haven't spent a lot of time, very small sample size, looking at the numbers to see what's different exactly, but he looks like a totally different player in the sense that he looks like the guy he was a couple of years ago when we all felt really good about Paul DeJong coming up to the plate with runners in scoring position and the game on the line.
Yeah, I think we absolutely knew, or I felt very confident that shipping Sosa out and having Paulie D back in, we weren't going to lose anything on defense. I assumed that was just going to come up, and Paul's been a phenomenal defender, which also kind of boggles the mind because it doesn't look like it. We watch it every day and he just like kind of gets there and kind of makes the throw. And it's
like your uncle who plays slow pitch softball, but suddenly, is just better than everybody.
He just kind of gets there and he kind of just does everything. And yeah, I think, I think Tara's right on. It's like early in the season and some last year. And I mean, this has just happened throughout watching the Cardinals baseball over the last few years. He's swinging through fastballs down the middle, missing hanging breaking balls, just looking like he is the analysis paralysis or looking for the perfect pitch or whatever it is. I do think that he's one of those guys that is not like a naturally gifted hitter, not like a, Paul Goldschmidt just looks like a person who could wake up out of bed and hit a home run every single day. Right. And Paul DeJong is a tinkerer. He's a guy that's going to be working on this, working on that. And so I think that's right on. What I think that is really interesting, and the full caveat that he's been back for 8 games and had very little plate appearances, but in August, 6 games, 6 walks, 6 strikeouts. That is a difference. And I don't know if it's because people are like, oh crap, Paul's actually hitting the ball out of the ballpark again, we need to pitch around him and not give him just meatballs, or if it's his eye, or if it's a combination of things, or if it's just random acts cluster randomly. But I think that that's, walks are one of those things that stabilize fairly quickly. I want to we'll talk about that now and then maybe revisit that in a couple of weeks and see if that's actually still happening. But, if he can get on base at any clip that's respectable, play shortstop like he is, and hit the ball over the wall, I just want it so bad, but we've all been burned so many times. I don't know how to feel right now. So I'll just word salad that and stop talking now.
Well, he did say in an interview after one of the games that earlier in the season, he was dreading going to the plate with runners on. He felt like, here comes another moment where I'm going to mess this up. Not a good headspace to be in. I think sometimes, we on the outside overplay narratives. But when the guy himself is saying, I was not looking forward to that at bat, you have to imagine that that's going to have an impact on the field.
Well, and I think too, maybe we don't as often give enough credit to how much a player struggling can kind of complicate the solution, right? I mean, these guys are human, and I mean, if I in my job failed as much as you fail in baseball, and then to do it at the highest level when everyone's counting on you to do something else, and to do it repeatedly, and then to kind of feel like you're getting in your own way. I mean, it can just compound those problems so intensely that, a lot of times we maybe from the outside want it to be a simpler solution than it is. Maybe it's just mechanics. Maybe you just get in the batting cage and figure it out, right? But if it's something like that where, it's created this mental block where every time you have the opportunity to do something different, all of a sudden you're tripping over yourself to get out of your own way. And, there's a physical skill set. There's we want to talk about the mindset of athletes, but that constancy of failure that is so present in baseball is, I mean, I have spent a lot of time working with minor league teams, and one of the things that is always said in talking to minor league coaches, minor league field staff, is that you have to teach these young guys who've had success at every other stage of their career, right? Every other stage of their childhood, all the way up until they became professionals, to learn how to fail effectively, right? So, it's just interesting when you hear a comment like that from someone who has had so much success, and to know that he can still end up feeling that way in his own head and in his own, process of how to get through it or not get through it. It just, it really, I think, emphasizes the pressure that can come from the expectations in this game.
I mean, there's a reason why a lot of teams throughout professional sports have sports psychologists on staff with the players all the time. And I really, really, really hope it didn't get this bad for Paulie D. But, all that information coming out about Joey Gallo in New York recently, and kind of the interviews that he was giving before he got traded to LA, talking about how he didn't even want to leave at his apartment to go walk on the street. How on earth are you going to go perform in front of 40,000 New Yorkers every night if you don't even feel comfortable going to the grocery store? I think there's absolutely, I think that is super valid.
I think, here sometimes people are watching baseball or football or whatever, and they'll be like, if I failed at my job 60% of the time, I'd lose my job or whatever. And it's but it also isn't someone else's job to stop you from doing your job like it is in sports, So it's, if you're not locked in, the guy you're playing probably is, and that just compounds the advantage, and I
think I'm going to do a career change and start actively working against you in your line of work.
I think that's what you're doing by being my co-host on this podcast.
The real world equivalent of just a tall dude who blocks shots all the time.
Yeah, I've thought about that. Like, if you're an accountant, what if there was someone else whose job was just to bust in and rip up all your papers, whenever he could, and
or
part of
you're
your
writing
job
down a number, they're just like 8.
Yes.
One.
Just go in and change one number on every line. I don't know why it's wrong.
Looks like I just did my job. All right, let's move on a little bit. I want to talk about talk about small sample sizes. This is incredibly small sample sizes, but how are you both feeling about Quintana and Montgomery? We got one start out of each of them. Any immediate takeaways from their starts?
I feel better about their single starts than about the Frankie Montas single start for the Yankees. So as much as you can take away from that start, I guess that's what I take away from the other two. No, I think there's been a lot of comparisons made to the moves last year for J Happ, and the trade deadline moves there, Lester. But while I understand the comparison in the sense that these are not moves that upgraded the rotation necessarily, but they did stabilize some of the problems that were there. They filled holes, I guess. I do think these two are more significant moves in that the ceiling is a bit higher for the success that they can have. Quintana's interesting because I don't know that he's necessarily a guy I expect to go deep into games, which doesn't necessarily solve a lot of problems. But if he has more success in these shorter outings than we have seen from some of the other guys filling that spot, then sure, that can be very effective. Also, it comes with the territory that he's a guy who's had success in the past. So the experience factor plays in. And I see him as the kind of competitor who's going to appreciate being in the race. And, that might impact um, just that little bit of an extra gear that he has from the experience over the years. The Montgomery thing is interesting. One, because I certainly did not see the Harrison Bader trade coming.
Right.
As much as the organization has invested in Harrison Bader, the face of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right. Bader
didn't really see that one coming. Yeah, exactly. He's everywhere. But I'm intrigued by it. I know that maybe the numbers aren't the most impressive thing, but I see him as a guy that may have more success because of the change, even though he didn't want to be traded apparently and was quite happy with his life in New York.
I'm sure he was. You're on the best team in baseball, and you're like the fifth starter, so least pressure of anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's I see this as a really solid opportunity for him to maybe show what he is capable of on in a change of scenery and with a different team behind him, and ground ball pitcher that's going to work pretty well in St. Louis, even in the absence of Harrison Bader, who not necessarily for the sake of ground balls, but just defense in general. So I had a hard time putting into words my actual opinion of the trade deadline moves, because it was kind of like not overwhelmed by anything, but also not mad about it. So I think what we saw from them in their first outings was very promising. And like I said, as much as you can take away from the Montas start where he imploded, I think that's what you take away from the good starts from the other two for the Cardinals. But hey, I'd rather it start that way than the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Your point on Quintana is interesting too, because while you're right, while he might not go deep into the game, it still extends the bullpen in a way where now Palante or Hicks, who might have been pitching innings 1 through 4 and then 4 through 6, now they can come in, and all of a sudden our long man relief looks way better when instead of having Palante actually be the starter. So hopefully they can sort of build off of each other. Ben, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Tara just said. I think what is it? They've provided 11 innings, 1 earned run over their first 2 starts. That's something the Cardinals need. I think I think the way you were kind of talking around it, and while maybe not enthused, I think part of the reason, at least that I felt like I wasn't super enthused about the move, was because I don't know if the Cardinals had any other choice than to make those moves, or else we would be watching a team that is slowly catching on fire from within itself. Like I think Liberatore, there's gas in the tank. Something will happen there. Maybe Palante had more starts in him, but as Nate was just talking about, and you guys were just hitting on the idea of Palante backing up a Quintana start. I think makes a lot of sense in lengthening that bullpen. And I have, there are a lot of reasons I think to be very excited about Jordan Montgomery. I think one thing that we should all be very excited about is the fact that he's going to be a Cardinal all of next year. And he has been healthy. He's been reliable. He pitched we were just making fun of how tiny Yankee Stadium is and how, I mean, all of the stadiums in the AL East, arguably the hardest division to pitch in. So I think bringing him out of there, tapping into more of what he's got, getting him into the system, and I wouldn't say the NL Central is feckless, but maybe compared to the AL East it is. So I think it's only good things, and I'm very excited about him. And Nate and I were kind of joking about this on last week's episode. I would not be surprised. It'd be the most Mosaic move to lock up Quintana for another year or two after this season, just because he's in the organization. He wants to win. We know him, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't be surprised to see both of these guys back next year or years after that.
And because Mo is really good at getting star players 4 years after their star players.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you called him and you said 2 years, 22 million was your prediction for the Quintana deal. So I feel the same way. I think I wonder how this trade deadline would feel if there wasn't the looming insanity that was the Juan Soto trade. Because this was arguably the most impactful trade deadline the Cardinals have had in 5 years. Trading for 2 starting pitchers, not trading scrap pile people for other scrap pile people, but these guys were actually starting on other teams. So I don't know.
I still wish. I think that if Juan Soto wasn't happening and the normalcy was brought to the trading deadline, really think some type of catching help would have been great. Austin Allen is definitely a human being that plays baseball at the catcher position, but something that could have been a bit more of a tandem with Yachty, even if it's a rental, I think really would have helped this team out. And I still wish that could have happened. I guess maybe Contreras could still be moved, although that happening in the waiver wire and with the Cubs, that all seems really, really complicated. And I don't think that'll actually happen, but I don't know. I still wish that would have been upgraded.
Yeah. And I think my line of thinking when I've said I don't really know how to say I feel about the trade deadline is because, when you look at one possible option as the shiny object of Juan Soto, and then you look at the alternative and it's 2 back end of the rotation starters. Okay. But I think only if you're making the comparison that, hey, if it's not Juan Soto, then you get the Juan Soto comparable starting pitcher, right? And that guy wasn't out there for the Cardinals to go get at the trade deadline. So that's why in my mind, it's kind of I don't feel like they missed on the huge starting pitching upgrade that would have been as big of an organizational move as Juan Soto, right? Because that guy wasn't there. So instead, they did things that were available to them that didn't then cost them more than was necessary for a reasonable upgrade, but not an outstanding one. And so it's kind of sure, it would have been fun for them to do something that was a bit more off the beaten path, I guess, in some sort of making a big splash. But I don't think that move on the pitching side of things was there. And the only move to me that made a lot of sense to go all in on was something like Juan Soto. So only one team was going to get him. So if you don't do that, you don't need to go make a splash with something else that doesn't also help you at all.
Right. And I think you see the price of how much it took the Mariners to get Castillo. And I would love to know, I'd love Mo to tell us how much the Marlins were asking for Pablo Lopez, who is still, like you're talking, even those 2 guys, very good pitchers, nowhere close to the impact that Soto. So yeah, I'd be curious to know, but I think we're in agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, the last guy, even smaller sample size, but just touch on Chris Stratton real quick. Seems like he's fit well into the bullpen. I think, again, low bar to jump over for increasing the effectiveness of the bullpen. But that, to me, did put that trade over the top and saying, absolutely, it was worth it. We both liked Oviedo, and Nunez will probably be good, but he's so far away. So I think the trade deadline was exactly what we should have all seen it to be. It's exactly as incredible. Other than the fact that Bader was traded, this deadline was incredibly predictable.
Yeah. I share the shock on that one still.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine, but it was certainly not on my radar as how about just a straight up swap for Harrison Bader? Anyone?
Yeah, and
Also,
it comes
you
out at the time at the deadline, like
right.
You trade a guy whose whole game is based on his legs with a foot injury. Like I just
it's surprising.
The whole thing
it's very
doesn't
surprising.
make sense. Yeah.
No, I
it's
agree.
it's always satisfying when a trade happens and you go and look at the other teams like social media or whatever, and everyone's pissed.
Yeah,
you're like, all right. We'll never know how this will work out. But.
None more so than Brewers fans, though. Let me tell you.
Oh man.
When your front office has to make a statement to be like, listen, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
It looks bad, but just trust us.
And then you lose like 5 of your next 6 games almost exclusively because of your bullpen.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, big oof on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all could make fun of the Brewers and talk about the boring trade deadline for hours, if not days or weeks. But I think we should probably move on. And Tara, while we've got you with us, we wanted to play a little game. We do this at the end of episodes where I force Ben into really stupid, challenging games. And we've had some good success with our previous guests, meaning that they basically smoked Ben. And not to set you up or anything, but mostly to make sure that the bar is, you understand how low the bar is. And so this is actually a game that we played with Daniel when he was on. It's a game that we call What Did He Do?
What did he do?
Okay, so here's how this game works. I have collected several individual stats for various players that have been members of the Cardinals. I'm going to say their name, and I'm going to say what stat. I'm going to name a stat, and then you will guess the the number that I'm saying. Like if I said how many home runs did Mark McGwire hit in his record-setting season, whoever goes first would make a guess, and then whoever goes second would make a guess, and whoever's closest without going over Price is Right rules will win. But I've chosen hopefully just ridiculous stats. I don't think any of you will actually know, but maybe you might know some of them. So Tara, you are our guest. Do you want to go first, or do you want Ben to go first? You're both going to guess on everything, but
I will let Ben go first.
All right. And make sure, I know you just said this, but Price is Right rules, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Which maybe I have an issue with that, but it's your game, whatever.
I don't know why we all as a society have just aligned on Price is Right rules being the way that you do any number game, but I think it adds an element. You're trying to, you don't have to be right.
It's actually a really interesting question, though. Like, do the makers of the Price is Right realize the impact they have had on how everyone in perpetuity plays games?
I don't know, but it's smart because even if you don't know the answer, you just are trying to react off of the other person's answer, right?
True.
All right. This first one I actually is maybe the most real baseball stat or most interesting one that I have on here. So did you know that Tyler O'Neill has the single season record for the St. Louis Cardinals of strikeouts?
Huh.
And it was actually last year.
Really? Okay. I would have guessed Matt Reynolds or Troy Gloss but okay.
So
there's so many other options.
Yeah, I know. Right? Ben, how many strikeouts did Tyler O'Neill have last year?
Season record. Okay, just last year. I feel like this should be a slam dunk, but I'm gonna go. I don't think he broke 200. Maybe he did. Oh goodness. I'm I'm going to guess 181. I'll lock it in.
181. All right, Tara.
I was thinking closer to 190. I'll go 189.
Okay. I hope it's in between.
Well, you both went over. It's 168.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not even close.
That's
okay.
the single season record, eh?
According to Baseball Reference.
I'm shocked by that.
I don't think
Sure
anyone,
it is.
none of those other guys got enough like plate appearances,
Right.
and
Sure.
the game was just different when Troy Gloss was around.
Gorman might break that next year.
Yeah. All right. Matt Holliday, fan favorite.
Okay.
Yes.
We love Matt
him.
Holliday.
Big forearms. Everyone loves that.
Big forearms. Hits the ball hard.
Yep.
Sometimes he hit the ball straight down. In fact, he has the single season record for most ground ball double plays.
Really?
Okay.
Tara, how many did he have in a single season?
I'm legitimately trying to think how many is like normal for one person in a
I
season.
don't know.
I have no basis for this answer.
Don't worry.
But
I would. Yeah.
I also feel like I recall many for Matt Holliday. Although I almost feel surprised that it's not like, maybe it is close to a Yadier Molina number, but Matt Holliday probably made more contact. Let's say in a single season, 22 seems like a number.
22.
And for the record, Yadi has the all-time lead for Cardinals.
Sure.
And I don't think it's very close. So you were right in your thinking there. But single season, yeah. All right.
Okay.
What did you say? 22?
22. Yeah.
All right, Ben.
I think it's going to be higher than that. I know Albert is the all-time baseball leader, but that doesn't really help me in this situation.
Those Angel years were rough.
Yes, they were.
He also had leg issues those years, so
Yeah.
it doesn't help.
I am going to say, Tara said 22. I'm going to say, I'm going to say 32. I'm going to just put 10 on top of that.
Ben, your issues with the Price is Right rules are really going to be compounded in this moment. So he had 31. Oh, my God. So that's a point for Tara.
This is insane. We're talking about this off pod. This is ridiculous.
That's
All
amazing.
right.
Wow. I think Tara set me up for failure somehow. It's somehow not my fault.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that. All
Yeah.
right, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
In 1888,
I remember it well. Yeah.
a man named Silver King, which is a great name,
Incredible.
Quite a name.
set the record for most pitching wins in a season. How many wins did Silver King have?
I know this is going to be a stupid number because they would just throw the same guy out every day. I'm going to say this feels like something I feel like baseball people should know because it feels like a good piece. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to say 41.
41. All right, Tara.
And he started like 60 games that year or something stupid like that.
Okay. A mere 100 years before my time.
Yes.
Many things about baseball were probably different in those days. And they probably weren't talking about pitchers' wins
Yeah.
remotely like we do. For better or worse. All right. 41? That's what we're working with here?
Yes.
That was Ben's guess.
Okay. I'm gonna say 38.
All right. In 1888, Silver King had 45 wins. So Ben,
Nice.
Ben, you're
Nicely
going to
done.
take this
Let's
one.
go. 45. Wow.
That
Do you know
feels
how
like
many
a thing
games
that
he started?
No, but I can find. I do think it was somewhere in the 60s or
Wow.
something like that. It might have even been more. This early, teams would have like one or two pitchers because they weren't pitching, it was like soft toss
Right.
basically. Yeah.
It's like batting practice.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
45
looked
wins.
it up.
All
He
right.
had 64 games started and 64 complete games that year. 584 innings pitched.
Wow.
They don't make them like that anymore.
Nope.
Sure don't. That is
All
a
right.
quality back in my day.
Yeah. All right. 1968 was a huge year for Bob Gibson. He set a number of records that year. For the Cardinals, he set the record for most shutouts in a single season. Tara, how many shutouts did he throw?
With Bob Gibson, it's probably like all of them. How many shutouts? I feel like this is again where like the number's probably outrageous because that's how pitching was then, especially for
Right.
Bob Gibson. But shutouts, let's say, going back to the previously used number of 22.
Nice.
All right.
Okay. Ben.
I am going to play the game, and I'm going to say $1, Bob. I think she went over.
You son of all right, Ben. It worked this time.
Yes.
The game giveth and the game taketh away. So cop out, but it works. 13 shutouts.
All right.
I was
That's like
giving Bob Gibson too much credit for once.
Yeah, that's still like probably 50% of his starts, or maybe a little under that. Yeah.
All right. Ben is currently winning 2-1.
Yes.
Ben is happy right now because he doesn't know what it's like to win. So he's feeling good.
Thanks, Nate.
All right. We mentioned this one earlier. So we're now going to go into some all-time stats. Yachty has the all-time record for St. Louis Cardinals in grounding into double plays. How many does he have? Ben, you are up first.
Jeez, a ton. I'm gonna say 378 grounded.
378,
and I'm gonna say that's right on it. I got it directly.
You got it in one.
Exactly.
Yes.
I will say 385.
You're both over.
Really?
Yeah. 283.
Wow.
Only off by 100.
Only off by 100.
He's
Sorry,
played for
Yachty or
1,000
Molina.
years.
That was my thought. It was like, it's
Yeah.
just a time thing with him.
Yeah.
Come on now. No.
I would have also, I don't know any of these stats.
He's
I
played
also
for
would have been
1,000
guessing.
years. And I feel like he's been the slowest player in baseball for all of those years.
Yeah.
But, all right.
I get to pretend like I know what I'm talking about because I ask the questions and don't have to answer them, but I also would have been guessing in the 300s.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about him earlier. I had to throw him into the game. Matt Carpenter, known for his great eye. And despite that, or maybe because of it, he is 8th all time in hit by pitches for the St. Louis Cardinals. How many times has Matt Carpenter been hit by a pitch?
Wow.
I told you these are stupid and unknowable.
Oh, no.
Tara, how many times has Matt Carpenter been hit by a pitch as a Cardinal?
As a Cardinal.
Wow.
All right. I'm going to say, gosh, this is the weirdest thing trying to think of, like, what's normal for these things? What?
You try to calculate it out. Yeah.
Try to logic things that shouldn't be. All right. I'm going to say 148.
148. All right,
Yeah.
Ben.
Okay. Man. I don't even have a good. I'm glad that you put some content. Like the 148 gives me at least something to think about. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna try to undercut Tara, and I'm gonna say I'm just gonna go with an even $100 bill.
Once again, you're both over. So it was 65.
What? Really?
Yeah.
That's definitely not as many as I would have imagined as a record. All right.
Well,
good for him, though.
it's eighth all time.
Yeah, eighth all time. That's
yeah.
true. Okay, you did say
I
that.
I think
Sure.
I'll find who's leading all time.
Interesting. Okay.
But it wasn't too much more than that, though. I'll find it while you guys are thinking about it. All right. Ben.
Yes.
Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
Is the winningest winningest manager of all time for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
But how many times did he lose?
Oh my goodness. 851. I don't know. That's just
851 losses. All right,
yeah.
Tara.
Once again, not mad that you gave me a number to work off of there.
Yeah.
I will say 817.
So it was 851 from Ben and 817 from Tara. Okay.
Yeah.
The amount is 1,182.
Let's go.
Ben,
there you go.
Only off by a few hundred.
Give him either more credit or ignored a few of those years.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, was it 14 years something? Yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, he had 1,406. Sorry, 8 wins.
Mm.
Okay.
And
I
wait,
totally
what was
knew
the
that.
losses?
1,182.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Damn. All right.
All right.
Take
This is the last one.
All right.
Cardinals have been around for quite a while. How many wins do the St. Louis Cardinals have?
Jeez.
This is counting just when they were called the St. Louis Cardinals, not the Perfectos or any of the other names that they were. So
Who's up? Okay.
Tara.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well,
I want to point out that there are never any winners on this show or in this game. It's just a race to the bottom.
I mean, we just established in 14, however many years Tony La Russa was there, 1,400 wins. That's a very small fraction of the St. Louis Cardinals franchise history. I will say 9,812 wins.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, that
9,812. Okay.
I had 10,000 in my head before Tara has said anything,
Right.
so I don't. Oh gosh, but I want to win. So I'm gonna go. I don't want to say 10,000 because then I'm kind of undercutting myself. I'm gonna go 500.
500 wins.
I'm gonna say she went over. Yeah.
Tara, it is remarkable how close you were to this, and you were underneath. So
Damn it.
You guessed 9,812. The actual amount is 9,918.
Oh my
So
God.
you were 106 games off of the total.
All right.
That's the 2004 season. Yeah. Wow.
And I'll just pretend like I knew that. Totally.
Yeah,
I knew
of
it was
course.
close.
So fine, that's gonna do it. Final score, we have 3. None of you got 3 for Ben and 2 for Tara. So
Good game.
Ben tied with just no one.
Yeah.
So thank you both for playing. Tara, thank you for being here. If people want to hear more or see more of your work, what's the best way for someone to follow you?
There has been significantly less of it lately, but still probably on Twitter. My Twitter name is still at Tara Wellman, has not changed over since the whole getting married thing. But then also, yeah, you mentioned the podcast with Shopta. We do that every Sunday. And hopefully at some point, the podcast with Alex for Birds on the Black will be coming back, but we have to kind of link up our schedules again at some point.
Yeah, scheduling a weekly podcast is super difficult. So thank you for your flexibility in meeting with us to record this. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. So
yeah, Tara, thanks again.
Thanks so much for having me.
And before we move into the back part of the episode, we want to remind everybody that this show is supported on Patreon. If you enjoy the show, want to support it, want to see it grow, we'd really appreciate you taking a look at patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Any subscriber at any level gets access to our private Discord. We call it the Bird Scored. We've been having a great time in there. People posting pictures, going to the games, just having really good discussions with other Cardinal fans that we might be having on like Twitter and things like that. But if you kind of want to get away from Twitter but still interact with some Cardinal fans, it's a great place to be. So
why would anyone want to get away from Twitter, Nate? There's so many great follows.
I take that back. You're right. So if you want to add another obsession to your to staring at your phone, consider joining the Bird Scored. We're having a good time in there. And if you can't join that or don't want to, that's cool. But consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That also really helps us. Ben, why don't you tell people where they can find us online?
Twitter is good, Nate. Okay, I know you're trying to bash on it, but it's good and we like it. You can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. And of course, you can always email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. In this week, I would like to encourage you to come after Nate aggressively for thinking that I could not do the watermelon gush. I think somebody coined me the watermelon crusher or the melon crusher. So come at Nate with all that you've got. I'll take it. That's a badge of honor that I will wear proudly. So be mean to him. I would say be hyper aggressive. Don't pull your punches on this and come right after him. And again, that's talkaboutbirds@gmail.com.
I'm not afraid of anything. And I think that the melon game has been played under protest. So we'll see what the judges rule.
That's horse shit right there. Is all I can say on
that. Well, I guess we'll just have to do it again and we'll see. Anyway, so
I will crush 1,000 melons.
I believe you. But
I lose my job.
Yeah, we haven't seen Ben in a couple weeks. Ever since the melon controversy. We took it too far. We drove him to madness. He's built a little hut in the woods out of watermelon rinds. Got the word that time.
Hey, you got it. Yeah.
All right, we got to allow the audience to peek behind the curtain a little bit here, and we did something a little out of the ordinary. We recorded the first part of this episode on Tuesday. We were really excited and grateful to Tara for her giving us her time and her her energy. And from a scheduling standpoint, it worked out best on a Tuesday. We also really wanted to respect her time. She went even further than we had really initially scheduled. So we let her get off the hook and go, but we still had a few things that we want to talk about. And now we are recording this part on Wednesday night. And it's pretty funny, the things that have happened in the last 24 hours since we recorded. The first part of this episode was all like, wow, what a turnaround. Isn't this great? And then here we are after being maybe the biggest beating the Cardinals have had in a long time, and the essential ace of the staff this year.
You got to get those out of the way. And if they're going to come against the Rockies, if they're going to happen in Coors Field. I mean, they're going to happen in Coors Field is really what it is. But I will say, so of course I live in Denver. The Cardinals are in Denver. And anytime that this happens, I go to all 3 games. I'm taking a half day tomorrow to go to the day game. I take advantage of the 3 or 4 games that the Cardinals come out here for. So again, of course, I was out there. I had a small group of friends go there with me. We have these great seats. We're in the kind of upper deck behind home plate, front row. Everyone's got their beers and everything like that. And oh my God, I mean, really, it was such a weird way to get, what was it, 16 runs put up on you, because obviously Miles was getting hit around a little bit, but so much weak contact. And Nolan, people around us were like, is Nolan nervous? Is he nervous to be back? What is going on? Because he just made, I mean, was it 4 Nolan plays that he normally makes in his sleep? And it was diving to his left. It was coming in on a ball. It was a bad throw. I'd never seen anything like that before. I think he only got charged with 1 error. I'm checking he only got charged with 1 error. But if you could give a position player an ERA, like Nolan might have had 9 or 10 runs last night. It was, it was a rough showing.
It was a strange game, and I don't want to overreact. I'm mostly just laughing about the insanity of the game. I don't know if you happen to watch the post-game interview with Miles Michaelis, who is really leaning into some sort of weird bit at this point. He had his cowboy hat on, his shirt unbuttoned, and he said sometimes you just got to roll with the tumbleweeds and get back up on that pony. And he's becoming a weird caricature, but I'm here for it. But anyway,
he's like a hippie cowboy. Is that what it is?
I don't know what the character is. It's very strange. But I'm here for it. And he was pretty funny about it because first of all, he's like, this happens. Everyone kept asking him like, are you going to recover from this? And he's like, dude, I already forgot about it. Like, let's move on, you know? And, but he was pretty funny because he said, he was acknowledging the fact that it was mostly weak contact. And he's like, well, I went in with the plan to only give up soft contact, only give up singles. And basically the ball was either in the stands or it was a weak contact. Now, of course, I gave up 12 singles. So maybe just trying to give up only singles wasn't a great game plan. But, this happens. And so it ultimately, it is what it is. We haven't really seen a game like this from the Cardinals this year. And there's always a few, right? So it happens. Now, if it keeps happening, that'll be...
Well, tonight we got Quintana going against Freeland. I think hopefully everything kind of settles back down. And I'd really like to watch a nice, strong Quintana start. And, it is weird because I will be going tonight wearing Rockies gear and Cardinals gear. I am obviously a Cardinals fan first, but I root for the Rockies all year except for these 2 series that happen. And I have a soft spot for Freeland. So I do hope he's a Denver guy. I do hope that we have a nice crisp game. Maybe both starters go 6-7 or something like that. And then maybe the Cardinals pounce on the bullpen. But there was some good notes. I think although Gorman's ball didn't go out, the fact that he hit a ball 100 miles an hour and almost 400 feet the opposite way was really good. And I don't want to pick on anybody, but it was the game that officially sent TJ McFarland to not being on the team anymore. So
were you paying attention to the nearly 500-foot home run?
Oh my! So there was some. So I'll fully admit what happened at that point. The game was over. I'm obviously watching the game. Mary's a big CJ Crone fan. We thought CJ Crone was up, and we were having a couple of beers and carrying on. I actually went and got some Dippin' Dots at this point in the night, which I'm not a fan of, but I was kind of convinced to go get it. Anyways, come back. I'm like, oh, great. We're going to watch CJ hit a bomb off of TJ McFarland. Somehow got our guys confused. Anyways, I look up and I see a ball that I've gone to probably 50 plus games at Coors Field. The only time I've ever seen a ball hit to where Rymack hit that ball was in the home run derby. It was incredible. It was fun because everything was already done
at this point.
But wow, I mean, when you're throwing 84-mile-an-hour sinkers down the middle, I guess
Basically
that's
home run derby. Yeah.
yeah, that's when your glove first third baseman is going to hit a 500-foot bomb.
Well, you also got to see the tribute to Pujols and Yachty, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I thought it was like muted. The response was pretty good in the stands, I would say. And what was funny, they played like a nice video package for both players, which was sweet. And the players came out and got a little round of applause. And then the Dick Monfort was out there and he got a nice hissing and boo, which made me happy because I hate Dick Monfort, the owner of the Rockies. And then, so they presented them with the out of town STL scoreboard sign. And then it had like a list of their achievements in that ballpark, which I thought was cool. And then they gave Albert Pujols, who's worth like $300 million, and Yadier Molina, who's worth like $150 million, both 2-night stays at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, which is a very, very nice hotel. It's this very fancy schmancy, like country club hotel golf course thing that you and I would be elated. But I kind of was like, these guys could buy the Broadmoor, but I guess it's a nice,
it's a gesture.
It's a nice gesture. They'll probably give it away for some charity auction too. They'll do something good with it.
I don't want to go to Colorado Springs.
Hey, maybe they'll. I mean, the beautiful golf courses. I tricked my way in there one time. Yeah.
Wearing a top hat and carrying a cane.
No, I was wearing tennis shoes in one of the nicest restaurants I've ever been in, and it was bad. It was a bad situation. I ordered some type of old school pork dish with a mint jelly and
ham.
It was like the bathroom led into the area where the polo players would change into their jerseys. It was like that type of place. I did not feel at home at the Broadmoor.
You forgot your polo jersey at home?
Yeah, my horse.
Well, I'm glad you got to go to the games. I'm sad not to be there. I don't do it every year, but more often than not, basically since Ben has moved to Denver, I try to go out for the series, and I've done it 4 times, I think. But this year, I'm going to Denver in a month for something else. Ben's wedding, which is stopping me from going to these baseball games. So,
so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, well. So yeah, hopefully tonight's game is better. But you mentioned it already. We just have a few Cardinal notes that have happened again in the last 24 hours that we wanted to touch on. A couple league things, and then we'll wrap it up. TJ McFarland, probably 2 months too late, but it's not like there was anyone knocking down the door to take his spot anyway. But he has been DFA'd, and Jake Woodford is back with the team.
Yeah,
it has to be a net gain, right?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a net gain. We talked about this with Kyle Reese almost a month ago now about how it was kind of strange the circumstances in which Woodford was sent down. They told him to work on the plane of his slider. So I guess I don't know if this is a thing where they were feeling good about Jake Woodford's slider, or if TJ McFarland just fell off the roster so hard that was good, right?
McLand far from the roster.
So I don't know. Will Woodford? I assume Woodford's just going to be in the bullpen, right? I can't imagine he's going to be taking any starts or anything like that. Maybe stretched out a little bit.
Maybe he's getting the 5th starter spot. There's the off days are lining up where they don't need a 5th starter too much right now. And we might be getting Flaherty back relatively soon, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But not that I'm counting on that. But you could see maybe him getting a spot start or being the second man out of the bullpen for a swing start, splitting with Palante or something like that. Because it seemed like it'd be weird to me for them to send him down, have him working on like a starter's repertoire, then have him come up and do single inning or even just like 2 inning games. So I don't know. We'll see, but it still has to be better than McFarland. And of course, we laugh. We wish him the best of luck. Hopefully, he can, whatever skills he had that got him to the majors in the first place, he can refine and figure it out and get back at some point. I don't know if you saw Kramer Robertson back with the Cardinals. He's down on the AAA team.
Picked him
so
up. That's right.
You never know. And he hit a bomb in his first game back. So you never know.
Did a little tour of the NL East and then came right back home.
And then came right back. Yeah. So, but yeah, excited to see Woodford back and excited to not have TJ McFarland back on the mound at least for now.
Yeah. It's so, I don't think we need to dive into this too much, but yeah, it's so strange. Like it kind of seemed like a magic trick when he was being successful. And it definitely looks like the stuff is a tick back this year that I kind of made fun of his fastball or the sinker speed. But I hope he does figure it out. I don't know. He's a kind of a weird pitcher that, especially in the Cardinals bullpen, like really stuck out for his fastball velocity and everything. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I hope the best for him, but it's obviously a win to have Woodford with the big league club over him. I guess to kind of move on, the other kind of, we'll talk about Flaherty. Flaherty has been throwing in the minors. Our good dear friend Derek Gould told us this morning that tonight he is going to have a AAA start, and they expect him to go. He had 30 innings last appearance, and they expect to typically they add 15 or 20 on top of that each time. So we're looking for somewhere around the 40 or 50 range. And yeah, I don't know. That's obviously good news. It's better than him not pitching, but as we've said all year, my eggs aren't all gathering in my Jack Flaherty basket right now.
Ben does have behind him like a bunch of baskets with different baseball player names on them, and he moves his eggs around, and I can see, it's true. His Jack Flaherty basket.
And you said that project was a waste of time.
It is a helpful visual aid. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point. I got all hyped up for his return last time, and here we are. So I'm keeping my expectations tempered. But I will say what I said last time, that it sure would be nice to have a Jack Flaherty back at the top of your rotation, because even with the additions of Montgomery and Quintana, the playoff narrative might be a little overblown, but like when you think about the 1-2-3 punch that the Cardinals would be bringing to the playoff picture of, I guess, Wainwright, Michaelis, and whoever of Quintana and Montgomery is pitching the best, doesn't strike fear in the hearts of many teams, and you're really banking off of an excellent above average performance from each of those guys every single time for a deep run into the playoffs. Whereas, what the Mets are doing, or the Dodgers, or any of the other, NL teams.
Well, Flaherty is just the only guy really in the organization that realistically has number one starter potential right now. And man, oh man, how great would it be if he got up to the bigs and got a few starts in him before we start hitting the playoffs? That would, I think the Cardinals, depending on how his timeline is, I think that they would throw him right into the fire if that is how it works and they believe he's healthy. Because I think Jack is that kind of player. Where I'm thinking,
was it last year though where they made the choice of Waino over Flaherty? And although it might have been the series against the Padres in 2020, where they very clearly made a choice of not to go to Flaherty, instead chose Waino, and it's a single game, so whatever. But like Waino got blown up, and it.
Like the narrative around that was home and away, and Jack's numbers home and Waino's numbers away, and all that. Which it would be hard for me to really believe that that's what the decision was made, or how the decision was made. I think that Mo Zalak doesn't consider those kind of silly numbers that I also don't really consider, unless it's like park adjusted, which obviously the St. Louis is a good place to pitch. But so is San Diego in that situation. Anyways, I would hope that would be the move if he can prove that he is healthy. And also, if that happens, you'd have to assume that they'd be piggybacking him in some way, just as a parachute. But Jack Flaherty healthy, I'm going to say this right now. That's good.
Wow. And that's
like
the kind of hot take people come like, and let me just pile it on. In my personal opinion, Jack Flaherty being really good and pitching for the Cardinals again would be good.
Wow. Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Smash that subscribe button. Come be a patron. You'll get even more.
Yeah. Who else? Juan Yepez is rehabbing, which is nice.
Yes, I think the lefties have come alive. We talked about this earlier with Tara. Dickerson. By the way, I saw a Corey Dickerson Cardinals jersey at the game last night, and I almost fell out of my seat. I had to check it 3 times, but no, it was his number and everything.
In Denver, a Corey Dickerson Cardinal jersey.
So he came up with the Rockies.
Is it a bit?
Maybe I don't know. But maybe it was some Corey Dickerson super fan, or maybe
it's like his brother,
something. Yeah, but I like I said, I almost fell out of my seat when I saw that. I could not believe it. It's mid hot dog bite, and Corey Dickerson walks past me.
It's me, Jeff Dickerson. It's my brother.
I didn't know you had all that Corey Dickerson knowledge just waiting. Anyways, the lefties are coming alive. Nootbaar looked good last night. That was fun. He had a couple of good catches, hits, throws, all that good stuff. He's looking good on the bases too.
Nootbaar just looking good in general.
He is.
I'm on the Newt train. Newt, baby.
Hell, there was a good Newt chant going on last night at the car. Even when he came out just for warm-ups, you heard the Newt going. People love him.
It's fun to do. Yeah.
It's fun to Newt. Without sounding like an idiot again, Juan Yepez kind of getting back and getting healthy is obviously good for the team.
It's good.
I think he, I don't know exactly where he slots into the Cardinals right now. Obviously a bench bat, potentially a DH. Really happy with what I'm seeing from Gorman at the DH position right now too, though. But obviously, having to figure out how to put Brendan Donovan and Juan Yepez in the lineup on any given day is a great problem to have. And I think that I feel very confident at this point in the season saying that the Cardinals actually do have a good bench, and a bench that you can have those players come in and you're not losing that much, and flexibility and blah, 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 all that good stuff that you want out of your bench players.
Yeah. It probably keeps Burleson back in the minors for a little while until one of these guys stops, hitting or playing well, which I guess is okay. It's a good problem to have. Our really good hitting prospect can't be called up because all of our other prospects are hitting too well. So, good problem to have. Hopefully his recovery continues very well and we get him back. There was a little while, April, May-ish, when he was really a major part of this offense.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's everything that has happened in between in the last 24 hours. Any other Cardinal news that you wanted to touch on?
No, that's all I got over here.
Okay. Well, we have just a few broader league things to talk about. I'm going to start with my favorite story. I think our favorite story of the season is still Tommy Pham's slap, and that will forever be one of my favorite stories.
That'll never not be my favorite baseball story.
But this one's pretty good, and it's different, but it's, for whatever reason, it's just really making me laugh. Luis Randolfo, while sliding on the field, his iPhone fell out of his pocket right on the field. And I don't know why that makes me laugh so much, but it really does. It is relatable.
You, a noted cell phone dropper.
Wow. One time. Should have got Lexi out there to pick it up for him.
Yeah, he should have.
Just like, you're not supposed to have a phone in the first place in the dugout. So he's just like really engaged in Twitter or whatever. It's his time to bat, so he just slips it in his pocket. I don't know. I just thought it was so funny and not something that you see very often, for someone to have an iPhone fall out of their pocket on the field.
I so want to know. I'm trying to think of which veteran in the Pirates clubhouse would even come after him, but I so want to know what conversation was had. Like, dude, what the hell are you doing?
Get off your phone,
Get
nerd.
off your phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's probably going to be fined for it too. There are rules against that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Made me laugh.
There's how many controversies are there around having internet connected devices on the field? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, who cares? Pirates, Diamondbacks, but yeah, it's good TV right there.
Yep. So we'll continue to monitor this breaking story, and you can get updates on it once a week on Thursdays. The other thing, Tigers GM, Alavila, fired.
Yeah, it kind of strange. I kind of always viewed him as a bit of a company guy there. Almost like Mozeliak. Obviously doesn't have the tenure of Mozeliak because Mo's been there for almost 30 years, or not that long, but what, 96 or something like that? Yeah. Really long time. And Al, I thought, kind of was the same thing. And I think that he's done fine work with the Tigers. Now, I don't watch Tigers games at all because of, my God, they're bad. But I would say, without looking into it, I like a lot of their pitching. They have good young pitching. A couple of like Mize hasn't really worked out just yet. Torkelson hasn't really worked out just yet, but they're both 22, 23 years old. Super prospects. I would say I'm a little surprised by this just because it seems like the plan is coming together. I don't know. Is it the Javi Baez that gets you fired? Is it just not taking the step forward when you're supposed to? I don't fully understand it.
It doesn't. I have to imagine, while the Javi Baez contract is not the single factor in a decision like this, I do feel like it has to be a part of it. Emblematic of some bad decision making, because I think, like, I don't know about you, but at least I felt like during that off season with all the shortstops, it was like there was no price that I thought would be a good price for Javier Baez. He just has the tool set, the plate approach that has never aged well. And so, like, maybe a 1-year deal, and not like they gave him a crazy long deal, but I just felt like no matter what you were paying Javier Baez was going to be a bad deal. And that's playing out. Now, it's not all on Javi, of course, but like, I think this was supposed to be the year. They had a good little run at the end of last season, and this was supposed to be the year that, like, we see that step forward. No one was expecting them to win the division or anything like that, but at least play good baseball and see the future of the team together. And like, nothing is working for that team right now. Like, nothing at all.
I'm looking at their baseball reference page right now. They have one player who has, he still has under 300 at bats, that has an OPS plus above 100.
Yeah, there's nothing working on that team.
Just nothing, absolutely. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, Riley Green is going to be good. Spencer Torkelson is going to be good. Javi Baez, I think you pretty much nailed that. They do have the albatross of Miguel Cabrera, who has been really bad this year again. I don't know. I guess it does make sense now that we're kind of talking through this, but I will still say I really like Tarek Skubal. Gregory Soto is a very good player. Matt Manning is a very good player. They just sold Matthew Boyd, who is a decent arm. They have arms there and they have talent. Well, I guess we'll see what happens, but at least for somebody else to do.
I don't know. I think they look around and it's like, who can we fire? And it's like, well, not the manager, like, and it's more of a team makeup thing. So I guess it was finally like they needed to make a move, and he's out.
Yeah.
So
bye.
I guess it's not that unlikely or surprising when a GM is fired. But it doesn't really happen as much anymore, it seems like. I think
especially mid-season. Yeah. And we've had managers fired mid-season this year. We've now GMs fired mid-season. People are just dropping.
Yeah. Well, I think that was really all from a league news. We had the phone drop.
Yeah.
Oh, you got another one?
Just a quick couple of, I want to make fun of Red Sox fans. Chris Sale is out for the year. He fell off his bike and broke his wrist.
Man, that dude.
I think I saw, since he signed that massive extension, I think he's pitched 48 innings over 3 years and like hundreds of millions of dollars. So
he just keeps breaking shit. Broken rib, broken pinky, broken wrist.
That's one of the breaking the wrist, like while you're riding your bike. Like that doesn't happen to children who are just learning to ride their bike. What are you doing? How is this possible?
I think he's got baby bones. He's got like.
I'm sure he could absolutely wipe the floor with me, but he looks like a guy that I could crack over my knee. He's just so skinny.
You know what I was thinking is, I had such an opposite thought. So I watched that video of like a month ago when he trashed that that clubhouse, and I was watching that, and he's a little younger than us, but not much, like a year or two or so pretty much like our age range. And watching a like this dude has hundreds of millions of dollars. At one point, he was the best pitcher in the league, or right around there. And he's just full of rage, trashing a room. And I was like, I think him and I are basically opposite like trajectories of people being born around this. Like there is like no part of my existence that would ever result in me trashing a clubhouse.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even be in a clubhouse, let alone have the have the desire or capacity to trash it. I'd probably break my wrist trying to pull one of the lockers off the wall or whatever that he was doing. I don't know where I'm going with this story, but like I just remember watching that video feeling like this is such the opposite of me.
You're a fiery competitor in your own way, but you're mostly it's mostly about lying, cheating, stealing, that kind of thing, undermining, subterfuge, so on and so forth.
Yeah, like a bin in a watermelon contest. Yeah.
All right, that's all I got for league news. I just wanted to make fun of Chris Sale.
All right. Well, we already did our game before, so thank you again to Tara and her time in joining us on the show. It was awesome. Check out all of her work; it's great. And thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back as always next week with another episode. Ben, have a good time at the game tonight.
I'm catching another fly ball tonight. I'm calling it right now. Let's go.
Where are your seats?
We are right behind. We are 10 rows behind the Cardinals dugout. On the home plate side, or like closer to home plate than further away from it.
Okay.
So look out for me. I'm wearing a national shirt. Yeah. I guess this is coming out after this game's already over, but look out for me, everyone.
If you saw like a Jabba the Hutt looking figure out in the, then you might have seen Ben. So, all right.
Thanks, pal.
All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week. And until then, go Cards.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.